Hello everyone and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be building a project with a lot of functionality, starting with pagination on the top. So you can go to the previous page and you can go to the next page, and then when you click on this image, it's going to take you to the article that is related to this image, and when you click on this title as well, it's going to take you to the article. When you scroll to the bottom, then you're going to have pagination on for the previous and the next page as well. Okay, so for example, if I click on the next page, then it's going to rerun a get request and it's going to show me articles on the next page, which is currently page 2. And then we have tags on the bottom. So when you click on each one of these tags, it's going to show you articles related to that particular tag. So for example, if I click on web dev right here, it's going to rerun another get request and then it's going to show me articles related to web development. Okay, and if I click on static web apps, it's going to do the same thing. And then if I click on previous, if I'm on the first page, then it's going to show me a toast here. If I can actually find it, it's going to show me a toast that says you're already on the front page. And then I have set a maximum page of 1000. So if you click on next until you reach the 1000th page, if you try to go into 1001, then it's going to show you that you're already on the last page. And then finally, the last thing that we're going to implement is when you hover over the name of the author of the article, then this pops up. So we have a bigger image, and then we have the name of the person, we have a follow button, and then we have the social media of the person. Now this social media doesn't really work because it doesn't link to their actual social media, but if they do have a website, then when you click on this, then it's going to take you to the actual website. We are going to be using the Dev.to articles API, and I've set it to fetch only 10 articles per page. You can set it to 100 or 1000 if you want, but that is a bit overkill, especially for applications, because it's going to take quite a bit of time to load. So that's why I've chosen to set it 10 articles per page. Okay. So this is a very cool looking application. It involves a lot of functionality, and therefore we're going to be building it in React and Tailwind CSS. So yeah, let's get started. So what I've done is I've opened up a new instance of Visual Studio Code, and you can see that nothing is open currently. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my terminal using Ctrl and J, and then inside my terminal, I'm going to cd into my desktop and into a folder called FM Challenges. And then inside this folder, I'm going to create a new React application. So I'm going to say npx create React app. I can type. And then I'm going to call this app dev.to-clone-yt. And then, by the way, I should mention that once we're done with this project, that's when I'm going to commit it to GitHub. Okay, so you're going to have access to the code, and you can check the link in the description for the GitHub repository. And then I'm going to deploy to Netlify as well, so that you can have access to the demo website. Okay, so I'm going to let this run, and then once it finishes running, then I'm going to be back. Okay, so this has finished running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cd into dev-to-clone-yt, a ridiculously long name, and then I'm just going to say code dot, which is going to open up VS Code into this folder. And then we can begin a bit of cleanup. So I'm going to close this. Okay, let me close this, and then let me open this. Okay, so what I'm going to do, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this file. So I'm going to delete the app.css, the app.js, the logo, this one, and this one. Just delete them, we don't need them. And then in the index.js, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to remove this because we've deleted this file, and remove the import as well. And then in the index.css, I'm going to remove this line and save it. And then in the app.js, I'm going to remove these two because we've deleted these files. And then we're going to return an h1 that says hello world, like so. And then we can just remove this class name so that we return a fragment. Okay, so we're going to save that, and then I'm going to reset my computer because something is happening that I do not like. But because of the power of editing, you won't even realize. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to go into the Tailwind CSS website to install Tailwind CSS. So this is the website right here. You can check the link in the description. And I'm going to go into framework guides, and I'm going to choose create React app. And I'm going to start from here. So just copy this, and I'm going to open up my terminal using Ctrl and J. And then I'm going to paste this in and let it run. And then I'm going to copy this next one. Okay, so that has run. So I'm going to paste this next one, which is going to create a Tailwind config and post CSS config file. And then I'm going to copy these 3 lines, copy this, And then I'm going to go into this newly created file, tailwindconfig.js, and then I'm going to paste it on top right here. And then we need to import this into our index.css. So into index.css, right on top of this, let's paste it in, and then we can run our server. Okay, so right inside here, I'm going to say npm run start. Now I should mention that we're going to be using a number of packages in this application, but I don't want to install all of them right now. So instead, what I'm going to do is we're going to be building out the application, and then when it reaches the section or the part where we need that package installed, then we are going to install it. I feel like that would be a better way for people to learn why we're installing certain packages instead of installing all of them at once, and then by the middle of the video, you've already forgotten the reason why you installed it. Okay, so I'm going to let this run, and then once it opens up, then we're going to continue. Okay, so if you did everything correctly, then your server opens up on localhost 3000 and you have hello world on the screen. Okay, fantastic. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to add a bit of global styles in my CSS. So right on top of this, I'm just going to say set the image to have a max width of 100%. And then I'm going to go into the body, give this body a background color of hashtag F5, 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 which is a very light gray. And then I'm going to give this a font size of 16 pixels. And then I'm going to create a custom class called max width. And this is going to be using some Tailwind classes that I just want to add here. So I'm going to add the padding on the x-axis of 5 and a padding on the y-axis of 10. And then I'm going to say that for large screens, I want the max width to be 3XL. And then for large screens, I want the MX to be auto so that it centers everything. And then for 2XL screens, then I want to remove the padding on the x-axis. Okay. And just to show you how this is going to look, let me save this, and then you can go into app.js, and inside here we can return a div with a class name of max-width. And what should happen is that this text should move up to around here. So let's save this. And look at that. There we go. So this is working correctly. Now I don't want this class to be here. This is just a demonstration. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new folder inside my source folder called components. And then inside components, I'm going to create a new file called fetch articles.js. Now I should mention that it is possible to put this entire application inside one component called the app, but I don't want to do that. And I really prefer just extracting components when it is necessary. And I'm going to show you two cases where it is going to be necessary to extract components. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is right inside my fetch articles.js, I just want to create a function. So export default function fetch articles. And inside here, I just want to return a fragment. And then inside this fragment, I want to return a section. Now this section is going to have the class name of max width. Okay, just like that, close it out. And then inside here, we're going to return let's return an h1 that says fetch articles component. Okay, and then we can render this article inside our app.js. So instead of returning hello world, we're going to return fetch articles like so, and import it from on the top. So save this, and we should see this on the screen. So this is working correctly. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so we can begin creating our function to fetch our data, and then we can begin to populate this component. So the first thing that I want to do is on top of this, I want to import use state and use effect from React. Okay, and then I'm going to set up my state value. So I'm going to say const articles and set articles. This is equal to use state, and by default it's going to be an empty array because we're going to populate it when we fetch our data. And then I want to set up a use effect with a callback function here, and then an empty dependency array. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say const fetch articles. This is going to be equal to an asynchronous function like so. I'm going to say const res equals to await fetch, and we're going to be fetching from the API, which I actually haven't showcased. So let's see. So the API is the Dev.to API, where we're going to be fetching 10 articles. So the articles API, we're going to be fetching 10 of them per page. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, And then I'm going to go back inside here, place it inside backticks, and then we're going to paste that in. Now, the reason why I've placed it inside backticks is because we're going to be appending a bit more information on the end of this once we get into filtering with tags and pagination, okay? But for now, this is going to work as expected. And then below this, we're going to say const data equals to await res.json. And then I'm just going to say set articles into the data that we get back. And then remember to call your function, so fetch articles like so. And we should see nothing yet on the screen, but we can see something by going below this and just saying articles dot length articles, and we should see the number 10. We should see 10 articles right there. Fantastic. Now, before we continue, what I want to do is I want to create a loading state. So if we don't have any data, then I want to show a loading state, and then once we fetch our data, then I want the loading state to disappear. So we can do that by going below this and just creating an is loading state value. So is loading and set is loading. Set is loading, this is equal to use state, and by default it's going to be true. Okay, so I want to go above this function and I want to say set is loading to true. Now it is true by default, it is true by default, but I'm just setting it to true here to make sure that it is actually true. Okay, and then once we fetch our data from the articles, once this function runs, then I just want to say set is loading to false. Okay, but I'm going to comment this out because I still want to style our loading animation. And then what I'm going to do is now, instead of returning this, I'm going to cut it out and I'm going to place backticks, and I'm going to say when is loading is true, then I want to return a div here. Come on, div with a class name of spinner. And then inside this div, we're going to have an article just like that, an empty article. And then when it is false, so place your full colon, then you can return this. Now, by default, we should not see anything on the screen because none of this is populated. Okay, so let's save this. And we should see nothing. Okay, if you want to test whether this is actually working, you can just set this to loading ... And you should see loading. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to style our loading spinner, and let me place this to the right, this to the left. And I do realize that I've just confused my direction, but that's okay. Okay, and then below this, let's just tell our spinner. So I'm going to say that for the dot spinner, and I want to access the article inside, I want this width to be 4rem. I want the height to be 4rem, and I want the border to be 0.2rem and solid, and I want it to be 0f172a. That should be it. Yeah, it's a dark slate color. Okay, so let's save this. Let's see what we have. And we have this. Okay, fantastic. And then what I want to do is, actually, you know what, I'm doing this wrongly. I'm doing this wrongly. So I want this color to be a slight gray. So let me just give it like hashtag 999. And then now I want the border on the top to be this color. Let's see. So we should see, oh sorry, border top color, border top color. And there we go. Fantastic. Now the reason why this is possible, even though we already set the border color here, is because of CSS specificity. So the more to the bottom you are of the CSS file, the more specificity you have, and that's why this applies and this doesn't apply on the top border. Okay, and then let's have a border radius of 50% to make it rounded. And then now we just want to add a spinning animation, so I'm going to say animation spin. Okay, I want it to spin for 1 second, for infinite, or so forever, and then in a linear fashion like so. And then we can go ahead and create our keyframes. So keyframes spin, and I want it to spin from transform rotate 0 degrees, and I want it to spin to transform rotate 360 degrees. And we should see this on the screen. Okay, fantastic. Now I just want to move this to the center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to access the spinner class, and I'm just going to say display flex alignment on center, just so I connect to the center. And then I'm going to set a min height of 100 equal heights, and it places it perfectly to the center. Fantastic. Okay, Now that our loading speeder is done, we can go ahead into our fetch articles component, and then we can uncomment this, which is going to set is loading to false, and we should see 10 articles on the screen. There we go. Fantastic. Now what I want to do is, instead of only returning this, I want to get this out, and then I want to return a fragment, and then inside this fragment, then I want to map over my articles data. So I'm going to say articles.map, and then I wrote this down. I wrote these items down, but if you look into the API, we're really just going to be getting these items, okay? And actually, no, let me just do it from here. So I want to get the ID, I want to get the title, I want to get the description, the readable publish date, readable underscore publish underscore date. We want to get the URL, so that is going to be the URL to the article. We want to get the comments count. We're going to get the public reactions underscore count. We want to get the, actually not, I want to get the published timestamp instead of the readable published date. So published timestamp, and then I want to remove this from here. Okay, and then once you get the published timestamp, I want to get the positive reactions count. So positive underscore reactions underscore count, and then I want to get the cover image, because obviously that's going to be the cover image of the article if it does have one. And then I want to get the what else the created at, which is the date it was created at. Actually, do you know what, created at is the same as the published date. Is it 22/05/040/15? 22/05/0, yeah, it's the same, so we don't need this. And then we can get the, what was it, we can get the tag list. We want to get the tag list. Oops. So tag underscore list, and then we want to get the user. Okay, so once we get the user, then that is going to be it. We're going to be accessing these values from the user using dot notation. So once we have that, then let's set up our return, where I'm going to be returning, let's return an article like so with the key of ID, and then inside this article we're going to have an image, and the source for this image is going to be cover underscore image like so, and the alt attribute, in case the image fails to load, I just want to show the title of the article. Okay, and then let's see what we have on the screen. Okay, now I should mention that I ran into an error while building this out for the first time, and I do hope that I get it so that I can show you how to fix it. If I don't get it, then I'm just going to show you the fix for it. I'm going to explain the error, and then I'm going to show you the fix for it. But notice this, notice how we get 10 articles, yes, but some articles do not have the cover image. Okay, so what I don't want to happen is, I don't want to see these items. I don't want to see these, right? So what I can do is, we can grab all of this and place a conditional and say that only when cover image is true, that's when I want this to show. When it is not true, then nothing is going to show. Okay, so let's save this, and you'll notice that all of those items are removed. Okay, so that's looking fantastic. Now what I want to do next is, I want to create a div inside here, and then this div is going to have an article, and then this article is going to have an image, which is coming from user dot, what is the profile image. So we're accessing user dot profile image 90, which is the small version. So user dot profile underscore image underscore 90, and then for the alt attribute, in case the image fails to load, then I just want to show user dot name. So let's save this, and let's see what we have. Okay, so look at this, we have the profile images of each of the users, and then right after the image, I want to have an h2 that says user.name, so that it displays their name. Fantastic. And you know what, instead of an h2, what I want to happen is, I want this to be list items. So ul into li times 2. So this first one is going to show user.name, so remove this h2. Okay, and then this second one is going to show the date that this was published, which we're getting from published timestamp. Okay, so we're going to say published underscore timestamp like so. So let's save this, and we should see this on the screen. Okay, now notice that we can't really read this date, so we're going to install a package called datefns, which is going to help us to solve this. But for now, let's just have it as it is, and then because I just want to get all the data first before we begin studying everything out. Okay, so once we get our image and the name of the person as well as the date, what I want to do is I want to go outside of this article and I want to create another article. And then inside this article, I'm going to have an anchor tag. This anchor tag is going to be linking to URL and it's going to say the title of the blog post. So save this and you should see that. Okay, fantastic. And then I want this to open on a new page. So I'm going to set the target equals to _blank. And then the rel for this is going to be no referrer to prevent cross-site scripting, like so. Okay, and then below this, we're going to have another article. So we're going to have another article, and this is going to say, actually, what am I doing? Below this anchor tag, we're going to have a paragraph that says description. So a short description of the article, of what the article is about. And this, we are getting it from, where is it? We're getting it from here. So this is the description, okay? And then now inside this article, what I want to happen is I want this to have a UL, and then inside this UL, these are going to be the tag lists. So tag _ list. But remember that tag list is an array. Where is it? Tag list is an array of the tags, okay, right? Now, you might ask why I'm not using this. The reason why I'm not using this is, let me show you if I can find the other ones. The reason is because this tags is a string and it is not an array. So I want this to be arrays so that we can represent them as different entities on the website. So right inside tag list, I'm going to say tag list.map. And then I'm going to say that for every tags, for the single tags that I get back, I also want to get back the index, right? And then I'm going to be rendering a list item with a key of index, like so. And then inside here, we're going to render tags like so. And then we're going to save this. And then we should have this. So these are the tags. And remember that the tags have a hashtag in front of them. So that we're going to have hashtag. Did you get it? Okay. So we're going to have this. Fantastic. Now, the next thing that I want to do is I want to create another article below this. So this article is going to have a UL, and then this UL is going to have two list items, and the first list item is going to be the reactions, and then the second list item is going to be the comments. Okay, and we can get these from what was it on the top? Positive reactions count and comments count right there. And you know what? I'm going to remove this because this is technically almost the same as this. So we need the comments count and we need the positive reactions count. Okay. So right here we need the positive _ reactions count, like so. Add a space. And then here we have comments _ count. Add a space. Okay, fantastic. And then I've just realized that I forgot to get one more item, which is the read time. So let me check where it is. Where is it? So reading time minutes, I need to get this as well. So let's go ahead and destructure it right before the tag list here. So I'm going to get reading _time _minutes, like so. And then I'm going to go below this UL plus a paragraph, and I'm going to say reading _time minutes. And then I'm going to add some text here. So min read. So the number of reading times, the number of minutes it would take minutes to read. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and then let's see what happens on the screen. And we have this. So 1 minute read, we have 93 reactions and 61 comments, and so on and so forth. Okay, so by the time we reach this stage, then we realize we need two packages to be installed. The first one being the datefns to format the date, and the second one is going to be React icons, which is going to help us to add a bit of icons for the reactions and as well as for the comments. So let's go ahead and open up our terminal here. We can add another terminal, and I'm just going to say, npm install React icons and date _fns, like so. And then we can begin using them as they install. So right at the top, I'm going to import two icons from React icons. So I'm going to import the first icon is called It's called ri heart 3 line. This is coming from react icons /ri, and then the second icon is called bi comment, coming from react icons /bi. Okay, now if you look at the react icons website, there is a heart icon that resembles more that one of the Dev.to website, but I did not want to use it. I preferred this one. Okay, so let's go ahead and use these two icons. So right here where we have our positive reactions count, so before this we're going to add our component here called ri heart 3 line, like so, and then here before the comments count we are going to add bi comments, like so, and then we can check whether it's finished installing. Not yet, so just give it a moment. And then once they install, then you can save this, but this is going to result in an error because this doesn't exist. Where is it? I want bi comment. Okay, and we should have this heart icon and we have the comments icon. Fantastic. Okay, so let's go ahead and format our date now. So let's import the package, or the method rather, called format from date-fns, like so, and then we can go into our published date, which is our published timestamp, and then instead of returning this, we're going to say format, and then we're going to format new date, and then pass in our published timestamp, like so, and then we're going to go after the after this yellow bracket, place a comma, and then we're going to format it in the form of month 1 2 3 4. So month, then day, then year, like so. So that when we save this, then we should see come on, we should see doesn't not work. Okay, there we go. We should see this on the screen. Okay, that's looking fantastic. So if you want the day to appear first, so all you have to do is just change this format, so you can format in terms of the day, the month, and then the year. Okay, so month is in capital, then year is in small. Please note that, and you can read more about it in the documentation. So you can see right here. Fantastic. Now let's begin styling this out. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to go inside this article, give this article a class name of border and border-slate-200. Okay, so it has a border. I don't know whether you can see it, and then right inside here we're going to say rounded-large. Okay, so the article is going to have a rounded border, and then I'm going to go inside this image right here, give this image a class name of rounded-top, which is going to make the image rounded just on the top. Okay, and then I want to go inside this I want to go inside this one, but it is a fragment, so let me give it a section so that I can style it, and I'm going to give this section a class name of grid, right? Grid, and grid grid-calls-1 with a gap of 5. And what should happen is, I should close this out. So what should happen is this should be separated just a bit. There we go. Do you see it? I don't know whether you can see it, so let me increase the border to slate 300. Okay, yeah, that's much more visible. And then what I want to happen is I want to go inside this div which houses all of these articles, right? And then inside this div I want to give this a class name of padding all round of 5, so that everything moves inwards just like that. Very simple, very nice. And then we are going to go inside this first article. This article is going to have a class name of flex, which is going to take these names here. There we go. And then I'm going to say items-center and justify-start. Okay, and then I'm going to go inside this image, give this image a class name of margin on the right of 3, and then I want to say width of 14 and rounded of large. Oh no, rounded of 2xl. Let's see how that looks. And there we go. Okay, fantastic. And then in the user.name, we're going to style this a bit differently. So I'm going to give this a class name of font-bold and text-slate-700. Okay, let me see how this looks. That looks fine. And then in this second one for the date, I'm going to give this a class name of, and you know what, instead of having default class names for all of this, I can just do it once in my CSS file. So let me go inside my CSS file, and right below the body here, I want to access the paragraph and the line height and the list item, sorry. so that I can give this a line height of 1.8. And then I want to access the paragraph once again and give it a custom class. So I'm going to say at apply from Tailwind and apply text slate dash 500 for everything inside here. And you know what, for the list items as well, really. So let me just put list on top, change this to 600, make it just a bit darker. Okay, there we go. And then what I want to happen is I want to go back inside here. Okay, and I want to access this h2, and it's not actually an h2, it's an anchor tag. So this one right here, and I want to style it differently. So I want to give this a class name of not flex really, but font dash bold text dash 3xl. And then when you hover over it, I want the text to be indigo dash, let's say 700. Let's see. So that this happens. Would you look at this? Okay, fantastic. And then now what I want to happen is I want to go inside this first article, this one right here, and I want to say margin bottom of 5, pushed away from the text right there. And then I want to go inside the second article, give this a class name of margin bottom of 5, pushed away from this one, okay. And then I want to go inside this article, give this a custom class name of margin bottom of 5, pushed away from this one, okay, from these ones. And then there's no fourth article, so there's no need to add a margin bottom on this one. Oh, sorry, I mean there's no fifth article, so I don't need to add a margin bottom on this one. Okay, and then now let's go into, where is it, right inside the description here, give this a class name of margin top of 5 to push away from this text. There we go. Would you look at this? Would you look at that? And then now we can style the tags. So inside here we can just style the list items, give this a class name of bg slate dash 100, padding on the x of 1 and rounded dash large. And then when you hover over it, then I want the bg to be slate dash 200. And then let's add a cursor of pointer because we're going to make them clickable. And let's see, where is it? This isn't really visible. Let's change it to 200, and then let's change this to 300. Okay, so that we're going to have this. Now what I want to happen is, let's see. What I want to happen is I want these tags to be list items. So I'm going to go inside the UL, give this a class name of flex and items-center, items-center and justify-start. And then for smaller screens, these tags might be too many, where they're going to overflow over the device width. So what I want to happen is I want to add a flex wrap of wrap so that when they reach the end of the screen, then they're going to go into the next line. So an example would be probably like this one if you had a smaller screen. So what I want to do is inside this list item, I want to add a margin right of 2 and a margin bottom of 2. Okay. And we're going to have that. That's looking fantastic. Pretty nice, pretty nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and style these icons. Let's go ahead inside this list item, and inside this list item, I'm going to give this a class name of text-small, make it smaller. Okay, and then I'm going to say flex, so display flex, and then items-center and justify-start. Okay, and then I'm going to go inside these icons, give this a class name of margin right of 2 or of 1. I think 1 should be fine. Okay, fantastic. And then I'm going to go inside this UL, give this a class name of flex, so that now they go side by side right there. And then what I want to do is inside this first list item, I want to give this a class name of margin right of 3 to push away from the second one right there. Fantastic, fantastic. And then now finally I can go inside this article. Remember, this article houses this UL as well as this paragraph. So I'm going to go inside this article, give this a class name of flex and item center and justify between. We should take this to the end right there. And then I want this text to be smaller. So inside this paragraph, give this a class name of text-small. And there we go. Would you look at that? Looking fantastic. Now, the next that I want to do is, let's see, what do we need to do? Oh, remember we added a custom class of max width. That's why it's already responsive even on larger screens. So the next that I want to do is we're going to introduce our pagination, right? And just to show that this is working, if you click on this, it's going to take you to the article. And I've just remembered that I need to add the click event on the image as well, on the cover image. So let me do that. So let's go into the cover image, which is right here. We're going to grab this and we're going to place it inside an href. So a href equals to, this is going to be going to the URL. I want the target, I want it to open a new page, so I'm going to set the target equals to underscore blank with a rel of no referrer. Okay, and then close this out and then paste in our image. Fantastic. And this should now be clickable. There we go. Look at that. Fantastic. So let's go ahead and let's build our pagination. So for our pagination to work, we need to add another state value here. So I'm going to call this state value page. So const page and set page. This is going to be equal to useState. By default, I want it to be on page 1. I mean, obviously, right? And then what we need to do is we need to append something on the end of this request, right? So I'm going to say ampersand page equals to, and then $page. So what this means is the page number is going to be equal to the page state value that we have on top. So this request is going to fetch articles, 10 articles in number on page 1. Okay, and just to show you that this is working, look at this. We are on page 1, so obviously this is going to be fetched, right? If I go into page 50, then the articles on the 50th page are going to be shown, as you can see right here. Okay, so that's looking fantastic. So let's go back to page 1. And then now what we need to do is we need to have some kind of buttons that are going to be changing this pagination when we click on them. Okay, so that what I'm going to do is right above, where is it? I want to go above this section, which means that now I have to grab the entirety of this section and place it inside a fragment. Otherwise, I'm going to get an error. So from here all the way to here, cut it out and place it inside a fragment like so. And then now, and the reason why you're going to get an error is because you can only return one element from a return statement in React. And the return statement in this section is, in this case, is this bracket right here. It's called an implicit return. So here I want to get an article. This article is going to be a UL with 2 list items, so li times 2. And these 2 list items are going to be buttons, so li times 2, and I want them to be buttons. This button is going to say previous, and this one is going to say next. And we should see previous and next right there. Fantastic. And then inside this article, I want to give this a class name of border dash top and border dash bottom and border dash slate dash 300. And we should have that on the screen. And then I want to say margin bottom of, let's say 10 to push away from this article right there. Okay, and you know what, yeah, that is correct. And you know what, let me not say margin bottom 10, let's say margin y of 10. Okay, that we're going to have this, and then we can go inside the ul, give this a class name of of flex and items dash center and justify dash between to take them to the end. And then I can say padding x of 1 or of 2, just so that they're not completely to the edge right there. And then inside this ul, I want to say padding y of 3 to increase this padding on the top and bottom of these borders. And then I want to add a left arrow here and a right arrow here. So I can go into the previous button and I can say ampersand LARR, so left arrow. And then here I can say ampersand right arrow, so RARR, like so. Okay, so fantastic. So let's try out these buttons for the hover state. So for the buttons, I'm going to give this a class name of, for when I hover over them, I want them to be text indigo dash 700, just like the text for the heading. And we should see that. Okay, fantastic. So now when you click on them, nothing really happens because we have not added the functionality, right? So what I want to happen is right on this button, when I click on this, so on click, I can place in my inline function and I can say set page into page -1. And this works because what the previous button is, if you're on page 2, when you click on it, you go back to page 1. And what the next button does is, I'm just going to copy this. Oops. Let's copy this. What the next button does right here is when I click on it, then I want to go into page +1. What is happening? I'm missing a bracket. There we go. can scroll. So let's save that. There we go. So when you click on the next page, I want the page to increase by 1. When I click on the previous page, I want the page to decrease by 1. Okay, so we can click on next and we should see nothing happens. And the reason why nothing happens is because we need to add a page to be a dependency array. And what the dependency array will do is that it's going to run the entirety of this function inside the use effect every single time that the page changes. And that's what we want to happen. So let's add the dependency array like so. Let's save this. And then when we click on next, now you can see that we're going to the next page. When you click on next again, we go into the next page, and so on and so forth. And then we can click on previous to go back to the previous page, and so on and so forth. And yeah, now when we are on the first page, I want a notification to pop up that, hey, look, you're already on the first page and you can't go back to the previous page. So in order to do that, we're going to use a package called reactjs, which we are going to install. So let me say npm install reactjs. Okay, and right at the top of this, what I'm going to do is we're going to be importing two items. The first one is toast, which is a method from reactjs, and then toast container, which is the component that we're going to render when we are showing that alert. This is coming from reactjs. Okay, and then we also need to import the CSS file, which is going to style our alert for us. So this is going to be coming from import, let's say import reactjs /dist reactjs.css. I think that's the correct one. If it's not the correct one, we're going to find out in a moment. And then now what I want to happen is we are going to refactor a bit of this code, okay, because we need to conduct a bit more checks. So I'm going to grab this from here, and I'm going to create a custom function called handle previous. So handle previous, and we're going to create this function. So right below our use effect, I'm going to say const handle previous is equal to an arrow function, where I'm going to say that if page is equal to 1, so if we're on page 1, then what I want to do is I want to say set page into 1 like so, and then I want to create a toast that says you are already on the first page. Okay, and then else we're just going to say set page into page -1. Okay, so let's save this, and this function should work as we already have it referenced here. So handle previous, and let's see, and nothing's going to work by there. I've just realized, because we need to render our toast container. Okay, so our toast container. So for our toast container, what I'm going to do is right above this, I'm just going to render toast container like so, and I'm going to set the position prop for this to top right like so, if you can spell it, and then you can close it out. So let's save this, and then let's try to click on previous. Okay, we need to reload it. Okay, so let's click on previous, and look at that, we are already on the first page, and you can click it as many times as you want, and this is still going to work as you expect it to work. Okay, now what I want to do is I also want to add a check for the next page, because the limit for this, if you're only going to be fetching 10 articles per page, then the limit for the pages is going to be around 2827, because I actually checked. So what I want to do is right here, I want to create a function called handle next. Handle next, and handle next is going to be almost similar to handle previous. So I'm going to say const handle next equals to my arrow function, and I'm going to say if page is equal to I'm going to say if page is greater than 999. Let me say 1000. If page is greater than 1000, then set page into 1000, and then we're going to create a toast here that says you have reached the last page. And then if we are not on the last page, we're going to say set page into page +1. Simple as that, and the functionality works. Okay, So now the question is going to become, then how are you going to test whether this is working? Very simple. We are going to change our default state value here to 999. Okay, and then we're going to go into the next page, which is now page 1000, right? So ideally, when we click on next again, then we should see a toast here. So let's try it. And oops, what did I? Oh, it's greater than 1000, so I set it to 1000. Okay, so now when you click on this, we should see a toast. There we go. So you have reached the last page. So that's looking fantastic. And the reason why you can still fetch the data here, notice that it's because of how we have written this. So we have written this one, right? So we have said that if page is greater than 1000, then set page into 1000. And here we're saying we have set the page to 999. So it's technically fetching the articles of the 2 pages, only of the 2 pages. That's what's happening. Okay, so this is working correctly as it should. What we need to do next is we want to add this very same pagination on the bottom. And once we add it on the bottom, then we're going to encounter something else. So let me just paste it in. So let's just copy this, copy, and let's go to the bottom of this and paste it here. Okay, so we have our previous and our next button. The functionality is still working. Okay, so we can click on the next page. And notice that we do actually get articles for the next page, but you do notice a problem, right? We're clicking on the next page, but we are still on the bottom. We don't want that to happen. So what we're going to do is, and I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. What we're going to do is right here, and here as well, because it happens on the previous page as well. We're just going to say window.scroll to 00. Okay, which just means window.scroll to the top. So we can click on previous and it takes us to the top now. And if we go to the bottom and we click on next, it's going to take us back to the top. Okay. And then something that I've just remembered is I want to add lazy loading to these images because I don't want all these images to load at every single time that you're looking at this, right? So what I'm going to do is we are going to go inside our fetch articles, right? And then we're going to find where there is an image. Where's our first image? Right here, and we're going to say loading equals to lazy. Okay, and what lazy loading does is that it only loads the images once you are about to scroll into the viewport. Okay, if you never scroll to the bottom, then the bottom images are never going to be loaded, and it just saves on the performance of your website or your web application, really. And we're going to do the same here. So loading equals to lazy. And is there another image? I don't think there's another image. Okay, so let's save this. And yeah, that already introduces lazy loading into your application. And let me see if I can demonstrate it. So if we go into the network tab right here, right? And if I want to fetch my images, so here, right? And I reload this, then we should see some default images being fetched by default, right? Now, let me make this bigger. If I scroll to the bottom, ideally what should happen is more images should appear here. So let's try it out. Look at that. Look at that. Do you see that? This page doesn't have a lot of images, but it really demonstrated that quite well, where the more you scroll to the bottom, the more you are getting more and more images. Then what happens is they're going to be loaded into the viewport just before you get there. So it improves on the performance and probably saves on the bandwidth of your users. Okay, so next let's go ahead and create our model that is going to appear when we hover over this name. So for the model, what I'm going to do is I want the model to appear right around. I want the model to appear here. Okay, so I want the model to appear here, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go below this list items and I'm going to create a custom component called person, and I'm going to create it. Okay, so I'm going to create person.js, and this is one of the reasons why I say that I like having extracting components when it is necessary. Okay, so this is the first time that it has become technically necessary, because it's also possible to extract these buttons, these 2 buttons, into separate components, and we are going to do that. Actually, I just did it here to show you that it's possible. And then inside person, I'm going to say export default function person, like so. And then inside here we're going to return a fragment. We're going to return an article that says person. Okay, and then we should save this probably, but first we need to import the person component here. So import it from person at the top right here. So save this and we should see person. Okay, so we should see this. Now what we want to happen is this person component, where is it? So this person component needs to have access to this user that we destructured right here. Okay, so how do we do that? Very simple. We pass it in as props. So you can think of props as properties. So I'm saying let the user property be equal to the user object that we destructured on the top right here. Okay, so that's basically what this means. And then once we do this, then we can go into the person component, and right here we can destructure the user. Okay, and then now instead of rendering person, we can render a div inside here, and this div is going to be and you know what, just to keep it consistent with how I've built this, let me render the div first and then the article second. Okay, and then this article is going to be an image, and this image is going to be coming from user.profile underscore image underscore 90. And then in case the image fails to load, then I just want to show the username, so user.name. And then below this we're going to have an h3 that says user.name, like so. And then below this, and you know what, let me go outside of the article, we're going to have a button that says follow, which we're going to style differently. And then after this button, we're going to have another article with a few list items. So li, let's say li times, let's say 4. Okay, and then this first one is going to be the Dev.to website. So let me just see how this is accessed in the API. So it should be username. Yeah, it should be username. So this first one is going to say user.username. The second one is going to say user.twitter underscore username. This third one is going to say user.website underscore URL. And then this fourth one is going to say user.github underscore username. Okay, and then we need to add icons before all of this. So this first one is going to be an icon called FA Dev, which is coming from Font Awesome, from the React icons actually that we installed. The second one is going to say FA Twitter, like so. The third one is going to say FA Globe, like so. And then the fourth one is going to say FA GitHub. And then we need to import them on top. So let's say import FA Dev and FA Twitter and FA Globe and FA GitHub. These are coming from React icons /FA. Okay, so let's save this, and ideally we should see something on the screen right around, voila, there we go. I almost timed it perfectly. So this happens, now we just need to style it. Okay, let's place this to the right, and then let's place this to the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside the person component, and then this person component, I'm going to give this a class name of absolute and bg slate -200 and padding of 5 all around with a rounded border with a slight box shadow. Okay, and then let's see, we should give it, let's see how this looks. Okay, so this is how it looks, absolute. Now let's break things a bit. Okay, so I'm going to set it to the top by 0. Actually, you know what, when I set it to the left by 0, it doesn't break all that much, right? It doesn't break all that much. But if I set it to the top by 0, then it breaks everything. Look at this, it breaks absolutely everything. So what won't happen is, the reason why this happens is because it is positioned, these articles are positioned absolute to the body. Instead, I want them positioned absolute to this article right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is inside the fetch articles, I'm going to go inside not this article but inside this div and give this div a class of relative. And what will happen, they're going to move right here. Look at that. So now they're going to be positioned relative to their particular parent articles, which is exactly what we want. Okay, And then let's continue to style this out. Let's continue to style this out. Inside the person, we're going to go inside the image right around here. Give this a class name of width-20 with a rounded -2xl with a box shadow, very slight box shadow on the image, like so. And then go inside this article, give this a class name of flex and items-center and justify -center. And you know what, I want them to go in column form, like so. Fantastic. And then I want the h3 to have a class name of text-center. Okay, and then let's style it out a bit more. We're going to say font-bold and text-slate-700. Okay, let's just say text-xl, make it a bit larger. Let's say margin y of 5, so margin on the top and bottom of 5. There we go. And then let's style our follow button. So give this a class name of bg indigo -700. Then when you hover over it, I want bg indigo -800. Okay, I want the font to be bold, I want the text to be white, I want the border to be rounded -large. Okay, and then let's see, I want the cursor to be pointer, cursor-pointer. Look at this. Okay, I want the padding on the y to be 2, padding on the x to be 4. Okay, look at that. And then now I want this to be block so that it goes all the way to the end. Sorry, not block, but with -full. I want it to have a full width. There we go, that it goes all the way to the end. And then I want all these articles to have a similar width. So I'm going to add a bit more custom styling in our CSS once we reach that point, but for now let me just continue styling this out. So I'm going to go inside this first ULI, the second one. Oh, and by the way, I didn't mention, if you want to add multiple cursors, you can click on the first place where you want the cursor to be and then hold down the Alt key to the next one and click on the next one and then the third one and then the fourth one. So that's how I add multiple cursors. So I want this to have a class name of text-small. Let's see how this looks. Okay, and you know what, I want all of these to have all of these usernames, to have art before them. Where is it? Art. There we go. That's not what I wanted. Okay, let's remove this space and this space and this space. Add username and then add the space here and here and here. Okay, and then we can go inside these icons, sorry, not inside the icons, but inside the list items still, and we can say flex and items-center and justify-start. Let's see how that looks. Okay, let's go inside the icons next. Okay, so inside the icons right inside here, give this a class name of margin on the right of 2. Oh no, of 1. 2 is a bit big. And then let's go back inside the list items, and we can say that when you hover over this, then I want the text to be black. Okay, so let's see how this looks. Look at that. And then let's change the cursor to pointer, like so. And then let's go inside these list items still. Let's say margin bottom of 1 or of 2 really. Okay, so yeah, we're going to have that. Would you look at that? That's looking quite nice, if I do say so myself. And now what I want to do is inside this UL, I want to give this a class name of grid and grid columns -2 with a gap of, let's say, 1 probably. Okay, or a gap of 2, so that we're going to have this. Would you look at that? That's looking quite nice, if I do say so myself. However, there is still no margin between this button and the article, so let's go inside the article, give this a class name of margin top of 5, pushed away from the button. There we go. So we have the follow button and we have the social media right here, and I want to increase this grid gap to probably something like 5, probably grid gap, let's say grid 5. No, that's too much. Let's say grid 3, gap 3. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to go inside my CSS and give these cards a custom class name. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside my fetch articles, and I'm going to place this person component inside an article. So I'm going to say article like so. Probably I should place it outside of the UL. I hope that still works. Okay, so nothing breaks. So what I'm going to do is this article, I'm going to give this article a custom class name of person like so that I can access this person component from the article that is inside here, from the div, sorry, that is inside here, because there's only one div inside this article component. So let's go inside our index.css. Let's go to the bottom and say that for the person article, what I want to happen is I want this to have a width of 90%. How does that look? Is that good? That is not good because I'm accessing the wrong thing. I should say the person.div. There we go. So the person.div has a width of 90%. I've set it like that so that it is also responsive on small screens. Look at that. So on small screens, it's always going to have a width of 90%. And I've just realized a bug where notice how, because this is a grid, then if the text is too much, then it's going to overlap into the next one. So what I want to do, the first thing really, is I want to go back where we have the website at website URL, and instead of rendering this, then I'm going to say website. Okay, and then I'm going to grab let's see. Now let's move this first of all, and then I'm going to grab all of this, and I'm going to place an href that is going to go into user.website underscore URL, and then paste this in, and then we can say website. Okay, and then I want this to open on a new tab, so target e equals to underscore blank with a rel of no referrer. Okay, I want this to open in the elements, so we're going to have that. Okay, that's looking nice, but it has messed with the styling, as you can see. So in order to fix that, then I'm just going to grab all of this, really all of this, or rather all of this. Let me grab from here to here, and then oops, and then I'm going to go inside here, give this right here a class name of this, and that should fix it. There we go. Would you look at that? Looking fantastic. And then now let me see if anyone has a long, yeah, there we go. So the ones with the long names, I wanted to check this. So the reason why this is happening is because this is the first grid, and then this is the second grid. So let me refrain from using grid gap here, sorry, from using grid, and then let it just be from the top to the bottom going downwards. Yeah, just like that. I think that would be better in terms of UI, right? And actually, you know what we can do is we can say that for large screens, then we can display it as a grid with grid dash calls dash 2 with a gap of 3. And then now we can go inside our index.css, and then we can add a media query. We can say add media min width of, let's say, 1024 pixels, which is large screens. Then I want the person div to be 90%, obviously, which it is on the top. And actually, you know what? That means that I didn't even have to add this. What am I doing? So look at this right around here, right? So this is probably as small a screen as it's going to go, probably to around 280 pixels. And we can see that something messes up here. Okay, so something messes up here, so that's around 375 pixels. So we can fix that by going to fetch articles, where we have our reading time right here. So we can say flex wrap. We can set this to flex wrap. Okay, so that this is going to go to the next line. Go to the next line. There we go. Look at that. Fantastic. And we have that. Okay, so now it's fully responsive. Now what I want to do is, on large screens, I want to reduce the width of this. Okay, so yeah, then we need to re-add this really. So this is going to go back to width about, let's say width, set this to 400 pixels. Okay, yeah, that's looking much better. I don't know what 400 pixels is in rem, but you can check it out. And let's say 400 pixels, so 25 rem. So 25 rem. And 25 rem is looking pretty neat for this. So yeah, this is looking pretty nice. Now all we need to do is we have to have the hover state. So when we hover over the name of the person, then this pops up. So what I'm going to do is inside the dot person. Is it inside the dot person? The dot person is what? What is it? What is it? The dot person is this article. So what I'm going to do is for the dot person, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say display none, okay, and it should disappear, okay. And then what I'm going to do is when you hover over the person, so dot person dot hover, not dot hover but full colon hover, then I'm going to say display block. Come on, display block. So what is going to happen? Where is it? Where's the dot person actually? Yeah, I was expecting that to happen because I just realized that we don't have, if this is displayed none, then it's obviously not on the screen, right? I realized that a bit too late. So instead what we should do is we should get this display none to get to be here. So the person div display none, and then we should say that below this, we should remove this and say below this that for the person, when you hover over the article, right, then you want to target the div and set the div to display block. Let me see. No, what is wrong? What did I do wrong? Okay, so after a long time of debugging, I finally realized that I was trying to add a hover state to this article, which is outside of the UL and this list item, which I had given a custom class name of name. So I've removed it from here, and instead I'm going to add it on this article. So add a custom class name of name, and then inside my index.css, I'm going to say for the dot name and the dot person div, then this is going to happen. And then for the dot name, and for the dot name, when we hover over it, then I want to access the person div and display block, and this should happen. There we go. Okay, fantastic. And then when you're not hovering over it, then this happens. Okay, now I had initially wanted to place the hover state on the title of the person, right, on the title instead of the entire article, right, as you can see, because it can be quite annoying, as you can see, right? But then I've just realized that the reason why that is not possible is because I have restructured this in such a way that it doesn't allow for me to do that unless I do a bit of hacking here and there, which is probably to grab this and move it upwards. But I don't want to do that right now. Now what I want to do is I want to reduce the width of this on large screens because this is quite huge. Oh, and I actually did, but I've accessed this differently. So I just need to add the dot name here and the dot person div, and there we go. That's much better. Okay, fantastic. Now what do need to happen is that we need to finally add our functionality to fetch the articles depending on the tag that we click on. And in order to do that, we're going to add another article, another state body, sorry. So below this, we're going to say const tag and set tag. This is equal to useState, and by default I want to fetch for the discuss tag. So what I'm going to do is, once again, we're going to append to the end of this get request, and I'm going to say ampersand tag equals to $ brackets tag. Okay, so what this means is append the tag, and we're going to append the tag state value that we have inside here, which by default is discuss. And then in order for this to work, we need to add this tag as a dependency array to our use effect, which means that basically every time that the tag changes, then this is going to rerun and it's going to make another get request so that we can get the correct articles depending on the one that we click on. So therefore, how do we implement this search by tag? We go into where we have our tag list. Right here, we go into our tag list, and then inside this list item, we can add an on-click event. So on-click, and we can just going to place in our inline function, and we're going to say set tag into tags. It is as simple as that. So let's save this and then let's see whether it works. So remember, by default we have the discuss tag, so even if you click this, then nothing is going to change. But if you click on best of dev, then we should see best of dev showing up, and so on and so forth. If you click on beginners, then we should see beginners. But you do realize another problem. If you scroll to the bottom, right, and you say we want to search for she coded, right, you can click on this and it's going to get the correct articles, but you're still going to be on the bottom. So I want to go back to the top. I want to enable scroll back to the top. So you can do that by taking this function and extracting it into a different function, just like we did on top, just like we did at around here, and then set the window.scroll to 0, 0. But I don't want to do that, and I want to show you another way. And in fact, we are going to remove this as well. So I want to remove this too, just like that. And then we're going to go inside the use effect, right? And right below this, we're going to say window.scroll to 0, 0, just like that. And now this means that every time that this function is going to be run, then this is going to be the last thing that is going to run. So no matter how many functions that we're going to add inside here, it is always going to throw you back to the top. Okay, so let's look for another tag, career. Okay, and look at that, it already throws me back to the top, which is what we expect. You can look for show dev and it throws me back to the top, which is what we expect. Okay, so let me try and make this a bit smoother, where I don't want this to show up just because I'm hovering over the article, right? So that means that I'm going to go inside my fetch articles, and we're going to break things a bit, most likely, where I'm going to grab this and push it inside the UL, inside this UL, which is this one right here. Yeah, that should be fine. Actually, let me save this. Let's see what happens. It should break, but nothing breaks. Okay, there we go. So it still breaks just a bit, which I do not want. So instead of having the dot name here, I want the dot name to be inside the UL. So class name, like so. So let's see this. Now look at this. Now the hover isn't here, it's going to be on the UL. Okay, so the hover is going to be on the UL, which is a bit better than having it here always, because it interferes with quite a lot of things. So in the beginning of the video, I mentioned that we might run into a bug while building this, but we have not run into it. So let me explain it nevertheless. What usually happens is you might find that sometimes when you're making GET requests to the API, or to an API rather, you'll find that your application breaks because of images failing to load. And usually if you try to console log them, you'll find that they come back as undefined, even though they are in the application, right? So what you can do is, for example, if you were to assume that this was undefined, then what you would do is something like this, where you put a conditional and say that only when user.profile underscore image underscore 90 exists, that's when you want this to show up. So just something simple like this, and it introduces just a bit of error bounding so that your application doesn't break unnecessarily. And you can see just by the introduction of this code that my application doesn't break. Okay, so what I want to do next is I want to change the title for this. So let's go into my index.html right here, and let's change the title into dev community, and then find the correct emojis. And the emojis are this one and this one. There we go. So save this, and we should see this. There we go. So dev community and Okay, so something else that we can do is we can extract this article that contains the buttons into another component, so that instead of rendering this on the top and then rendering it again on the bottom, we can just render the component. So let me show you two ways where you can do that. So I'm going to cut this out. Okay, cut it out. And then I'm going to go to the bottom, and I'm going to create a component here called buttons. Once buttons equals to an arrow function like so, and then I'm going to return, and I'm just going to paste this in. Okay, and then on the top where I cut it out from, right here, I'm going to render my buttons component. Now this should work correctly, but it's going to break because if you check our buttons component, then we have our functions here that are referenced, but this component does not know where they're coming from because they are inside our app component right here. So what we're going to do is inside the buttons component, we're going to create a prop called handle previous, and we're going to make it equal to the handle previous function, and then another prop called handle next, and we're going to make it equal to the handle next function. And then we're going to go into our component right here and destructure them as props. So handle previous and handle next. And once we save that and try to take a look at our application, it should work. Okay, so we can try it out. We can click on next, and we go to the next page, and next, and we go to the next page, and previous goes back to the previous page. Okay, so that means that this is working as expected, and therefore we can go ahead and remove this from here all the way to here. And instead of rendering all that, then we can just render our buttons like so. And remember to have the props inside as well. So now just copy them from the top, copy them here, and paste them here. Okay, so that is working correctly. And if you go to the bottom, then you can click on next, and you can click on previous. Now, the second method that you can use to extract components is you can grab all of this from here, okay, and you can create another file. So I'm going to go into my components, create a new file called buttons.js. So inside buttons.js, I can just paste this in, and then remember to export it on the bottom. So export default buttons like so. So save this, and then we just need to import this buttons component on top. So just copy this down, and we can say import buttons from buttons like so. And we can reload this just to be sure. And if I click on previous, it should show me the toast. There we go. And if I click on next, then we go into the next page, and so on and so forth. And the bottom ones should work the same way. So next, okay, fantastic. And previous should also work as expected. There we go. So that is working correctly. So that's just a simple way that you can extract components. And a good way to know when to extract components is when you begin to add multiple functionalities into one singular component. So that is usually a good time to extract them. So that would mean that right here, the tags where we're searching for the tag list once again, for the particular tag, you can also extract this if you would want, but I'm just going to leave it right here. We can commit this to GitHub and deploy to Netlify. So let me open GitHub and Netlify. So let me log into Netlify, let me log into GitHub and create a new repository. So create a new repository called dev.to-clone-yt, like so. Then copy this link. And then, I have not yet committed it, so we need to commit it first of all. Close all of this down. We can open up our terminal. We can shut this down, and then we can say git commit. So we can say git remote at origin. And by the way, in order for this to work, then you need to create a git repository for yourself, or you can clone it, or you can fork it so that you have it in your own account. If you try to commit into my repository, then it's not going to work. And then I can say git push -u origin main, and by default it should push the React application that we canvassed in the beginning. So let me just wait for this to run. Okay, and if you check in the GitHub, then we should see the default React application right here, okay, created 4 hours ago. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit all of this. So I'm just going to show you how to commit one of them, and then I'm going to do the rest of them off videos. That doesn't take too much time. So I'm going to say git add tailwind.config.js, and I'm going to say git commit -m, and I'm going to say tailwind config file, and then I'm going to say git push. And then once it pushes the file to GitHub, then you will reload this and it should appear right here. So tailwind config 10 seconds ago. Okay, so I'm going to do the rest of video, and then once I'm done, then we're going to be back. Okay, so I've finished pushing this to GitHub. So let's go ahead and reload our website, or our repository rather, and we should see this. Okay, 27 seconds ago. So let's go ahead into Netlify to deploy our application. So I'm going to go into import an existing project from GitHub, and it's called dev.to clone. So come and search. So dev.to clone right there, and then we're going to say deploy site. Okay, and I'm going to change this site into change site name. Let's say tsb dev.to clone, like so. And we can wait for this to finish deploying, and then we can view our website. Okay, so once it deploys, then you can reload your web page and you should find this. Would you look at that? So we have our application up and running on the internet. Okay, yeah, that's looking fantastic. So you can click on the next page, you can click on the previous page, and you can click once again to get this toast, and you can click on this ones to get the particular articles. And yeah, this is a pretty nice application. We have added tons of functionality to it, and we have learned how to use React on another level. So if you have reached this far, please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.